This is a film study look at how the Detroit Lions defense, I believe, whittled down the Ravens' options over the course of the Monday Night Football matchup. Of course, Detroit prevailed 38-30. Ravens definitely had some opportunities to make plays, and we'll examine at least a couple of disappointing third down play scheme calls by Todd Monken, as well as the failed fourth down conversion in the third quarter. I think Baltimore left some stuff on the table, but you have to give credit to Detroit for the style of football they played, both offensively and defensively. Focusing on the defense here, they were decisive. Definitely tried to remove options for the Ravens at times. I'm going to get the film started quick. I've got a significant number of plays queued up here to kind of go over for you guys. I'll try to have as much information on screen as possible for each situation. This is a second possession. The game is tied at 7, and it's a 3rd and 3. Additional to that, this typically means where the ball is located. It's on the left hash. The Ravens have set 2 receivers and the running back down into the boundary. I think this is a poor job by the Ravens of design, and also, of course, it's a poor decision, I think, by Lamar to target Alex Anzalone here. This isn't JOK, the inside linebackers for the Dolphins in 2023, the inside linebackers for the Seahawks in 2023, that are easily beat on a running back wheel concept from inside the backfield. Alex Anzalone keeps really nice depth here, if you ask me. He keeps really good depth here, and that allows him to stay over the top of this route. Justice Hill, for whatever reason, brings the route back to the inside as opposed to taking it up the sideline. If he does take it up the sideline, is this ball going to be in a location where Justice Hill could catch it? Maybe, perhaps. Lamar's generally been really accurate on these types of throws. I just feel like this is a one-time use, meaning you beat a good inside linebacker on this one time. You're not going to be able to come back to it again, in my opinion. Additional to that, there's no read here. Now, part of that is the Lions major in man, so they play so much man coverage that they're basically making it not a read on as many plays as possible, and you have to pick which player to go through. And I will tell you that going back through the film here, I feel like this is where the Ravens should have gone more often. Not to be down on Terrion Arnold at all, but when you look at the plays, specifically where he's targeted, there's a significant amount of separation. In my opinion, when you watch Alex Anzalone in pass coverage, you don't immediately say, as a team scouting the Lions, hey, we can go at that guy. That's just not what I see from Anzalone in coverage. He's a quality football player, particularly in pass coverage. Third possession now for the Ravens is 3rd and 6, and the Lions have taken the life out of the stadium and the life out of Baltimore's defense with that 18-play drive to get ahead 14-7. This is, indicative of what you've seen over the years when dealing with Lamar Jackson. 6 or 7 guys at the line of scrimmage, basically threatening to for an all-out blitz, force Lamar to get rid of the football, make someone else make a play, whether it's a wide receiver or a tight end. I'm not a huge fan of the routes that are happening here against this coverage. Zay Flowers down here to the bottom side, really didn't get involved and have tremendous impact. Up at the top, Bateman, kind of a deeper comeback, if you will. It's a 3rd and 6, and I feel like there should be a little bit more options than just this underneath route by Tylan Wallace, who I'm glad to see him get on the field a lot. The Lions, in this case, early in the game, are actually bringing a lot of pressure. Lamar appears to be looking down here to the bottom side to Flowers, and it just doesn't seem like Flowers is really making himself available right now with that speed, given the fact that Detroit lined up with so many guys on the line of scrimmage. Look, the reality is the defense can easily drop out, right, in which they do, in fact, later on in the game. In any case, in examining the film, like I said, this is a place where I feel like the Ravens could have gone more often. Lamar is escaping out to his left, the top side of our screen, and of course we know he'll find Bateman, I think, for a 16-yard gain. I think there's a missed opportunity here, basically, to go at Terrion Arnold a little bit more. Same play from the end zone angle, and you can see how many players the Lions have lined up at or on their line of scrimmage, 7 in fact, and in this case, all 7 of them are attacking. They're forcing Lamar to get rid of the ball early, which I think is a brilliant strategy, and then later on in the game kind of dial it back. Essentially, train Lamar, train the offensive staff to think that you're going to bring a ton of pressure. Lamar seems really calm about it, though, and in fact, the offensive line has kind of stacked things up here on this side. Lamar nonetheless peels out because Anzalone seems to win against Justice Hill, and Lamar has to throw it over the top of Amik Robertson. Great catch by Bateman along the sideline for the conversion. I wasn't super impressed with the Ravens' 3rd down calls, to be honest with you. But I have to say this. The Lions stopped the run. And because they were able to stop the run, that narrowed the available plays for the Ravens for our offensive play caller, Todd Monken. And so I think, again, Detroit removing some of those choices, they deserve credit, but Baltimore at times was quite impatient as well. Still on that third possession, this is, of course, going to be the failed fourth down conversion a little bit later. Detroit's up 14-7, like I said. It's a 1st and 10, and you're going to get Walker up to the top side again. It's against Arnold, kind of a post corner, if you will, off of a slight little play action fake to Derrick Henry, who then slides out into the boundary side flats. Lamar's foot oftentimes is getting to his back step, and he's on the move. And I'm not sure if, that's the design all the time. You never know, obviously, what they're being taught. But if I was to watch this and have not watched him a ton, I'd say, okay, he's getting out of there really quickly, and he's on the move in the pocket. Again, I don't know what the design element is. This is an amazing throw by Lamar to Devontae Walker, a big win against Terrion Arnold. I'll give you the same play from the end zone angle. In fact, I think it becomes a little more obvious from the end zone angle that this is the reason why Lamar is on the move so quickly, meaning why he doesn't just get to his back foot and sit there. It's because O'Connor, 95, looping around, is getting upfield. Falele, I thought, actually did a pretty good job on some of this stuff. Takes Reader down, and you can see this is the open lane for Lamar to throw it. He's just got supernatural, if you ask me, understanding of where to shift and move in the pocket. It didn't work out well last night, obviously. Detroit ended up with 7 sacks. On this play, it did. Huge completion to Walker. Ton of separation here with Terrion Arnold. I feel like if you get him to open his hips one way or the other and then change direction, guys like Bateman, Walker, even Flowers, if we could find that matchup, had an opportunity to maybe get things done against him, particularly down the field. So frustrating situation here, obviously. The ball's in the middle of the field. This is a 3rd and goal. Hopefully I don't have my down and distance wrong here. It's a 3rd and goal, and this is the unbalanced formation by the Ravens. Look how many players are over here. I'm not sure how many good teams you're going to beat if this is what you've got to do to score down in the red zone, down inside the 5. If you've got to go unbalanced this heavy, number one. Number two, I don't know that a toss call to Henry is really what I would like. I'd like a downhill concept or maybe something outside zone-ish or off tackle. Great job, man, by the Lions. Jack Campbell's going to set the edge against number 84. We're talking about right here. And so Henry has to fit inside of that edge, and you got multiple guys fitting in that lane to stack it up. In fact, I believe Barnes is totally unblocked here, and that's what forces or dissuades Henry from cutting this downhill. He ends up running into a pile of defenders. Let me show you what I think it's Muhammad, the defensive end, does here. This is not the type of play, though, that you watch if you're calling plays or if you're coaching. This is not the type of play that you watch happen on 3rd and goal and say, hey, we should go for it on 4th down. At least in my opinion. Same play from the end zone angle. Watch how Barnes is going to be able to run through this alley created by the force player, the edge player, Campbell, and then I think it's Cunningham and Branch and Muhammad. Muhammad does a really nice job, if you ask me, here against Noteboom, kind of getting some penetration, walking Noteboom back into the backfield. And you can see Henry's path. He kind of has to veer back to the outside right there. And as a result, there's no option for him to bring it back in here because the angle's different, number one. Number two, Barnes is there. Branch fills. Campbell is available. Cunningham, a great effort. I thought some of the underrated guys for the Lions really played exceptional on Monday night. I'm talking about on defense. Derek Barnes, Zach Cunningham, who's a veteran, who's been around the league. Trevor Nowaski got a sack that I'll show you a little bit later. This is the failed 4th and goal play. I mean, the Ravens have run right-handed plays in 2-point situations, 4th down stuff for years. Andrews running across into the flats, really option 1. Flowers running across, not the back of the end zone, but running deeper. And then Henry crossing Lamar's face, going in the opposite direction. Very similar, almost identical to a play that the Ravens ran against T.J. Watt in Pittsburgh in 2001 with Andrews sneaking out into the flats and Lamar having to deal with T.J. Watt. Only this time, the only difference is the Ravens kept a receiver in here, Tylan Wallace, to deal with that edge defender. So it's almost like the Ravens are still running the same concept. But look at the flow that's occurred from the Lions. I mean, you got Lamar, he's got the football, right? And professional players are going to adjust. So look at the flow that you've got. You got 5 Lions defenders all encompassed there. This is a critical play where the Ravens don't get any points. And I think the Lions are prepared for this type of concept, this right-handed football play, if you will. Great activity level, man. I watched this 2 or 3 times when I was watching the film initially. Campbell, and I think that's DJ Reed elevating. Fortunately for the Ravens, Lamar is able to get the fumble recovery. It's a great job by Jack Campbell and so many other guys. The Lions, yes, were forced to punt on their ensuing offensive possession, but in my opinion, that was a huge moment that they were able to get a stop, keep the Ravens out of the end zone, and keep that 14-7 lead. In fact, that's a very similar play to one that the Ravens ran against the Bills last year in the playoffs, right? The dropped 2-point conversion by Andrews. The only difference was Andrews started the play on the right-hand side of the offensive formation. In this case, he was on the left. I think Detroit was prepared, and I think they were incredibly hostile and quick to get to the football as a result. Moving on a little bit, we'll do 2 plays from the 4th possession where the Ravens are able to tie it up. It's 14-7 still, like I said. And this is 2-man. So the Lions majored in this last night, where basically the 2 safeties are sitting high. And so they're using Anzalone to play man on someone, oftentimes either the running back or the tight end, Mark Andrews. They kind of release Andrews a little bit here. So Andrews' route is not really displayed here at all. Flowers is underneath here and in motion, kind of getting underneath against DJ Reed. And then a great job, I think, by Campbell to take this over, this route by Flowers. So there's a little bit of a match flavor to this in that Reed is moving down with Flowers. Meek is playing against Tylan Wallace, man, but Reed has released Flowers underneath. And so it kind of created some confusion here a little bit, if you ask me. Lamar may be trying to get the ball to Wallace, but Kirby is possibly in a position to be able to drive on that. Branch stays with Andrews on this scramble, which is a good decision, because if he leaves Andrews, you're probably talking about a touchdown. It ends up being a positive play for the Ravens, don't get me wrong, in that Lamar scrambled. But I think this one influenced Sheppard and the defensive staff as the game progressed. I think they basically learned, almost like a fighter with a great left hook in the middle of an exchange. Okay, I can't stay here too long because that guy can hit me. He's got great timing on it. Lamar, with his scrambles, and so many athletic quarterbacks in the NFL at multiple levels of football, you don't want to give them that opportunity. So I think Sheppard kind of whittled down the options of what he would play in those third down situations, and it really worked out for them as the game moved on. Ravens definitely learned from the previous goal line play or the previous goal line situation. This is going to be the touchdown to Bateman, and it's going to be a left side oriented play. So motion left to right by the tight end, and then little play fake to Henry. And Bateman's route is illustrated up at the top side of the screen in purple. It's kind of like a China out or a whip route, if you will, off to play action. Lamar initially looking down here, but his foot's not even in the ground yet. So again, I wonder sometimes about the timing and how quickly he's already like reading now before his foot's even down. So kind of deciding whether he's going to throw there or not, and then comes back to Bateman, who's obviously open underneath for a quick score that ties it at 14, and that score holds until halftime. Pick this up with another third down in the third quarter. Ravens go down and take a 21-14 lead here, obviously with the ball on the left hash. They've motioned Justice Hill out, and Jack Campbell, the inside linebacker for the Lions, matched it. So that tells Lamar what type of coverage he's got, as if you didn't already really know, with Alex Anzalone lined up over top of Mark Andrews. Essentially, it's 2-man out of an 11 personnel group. Here's the routes that you're going to get. First of all, it's a really nice job, I think, by Flowers and Andrews of pulling off this little pick shield. And then Branch, a great reaction. This is close to not getting the line to gain. It might be 2 or 3 inches short. So what we're talking about is Flowers going underneath of this. Screen, shield, whatever you want to call it, by Andrews. And I think the Ravens should have done more of this. The Lions understand their man coverages. And if you ask me, there was yards to get there. I'm not talking about huge chunk plays, but there was opportunities for the Ravens to use natural picks, rubs, or shields, and it was like they were too arrogant to do so. I think Flowers does have the first down there, but I want to revisit that point for a moment. Look at the Chiefs, the Bills. So many teams, when they face really good to great man defenses from a structural standpoint, they use pick or rub concepts a lot. The Ravens very rarely did on Monday night. Branch had great reactions here to cross the field and get the hit. I would have liked to have seen more of this. from Baltimore. I think it would illustrate a higher level of design, a better level of preparation that would put players in position to catch the ball and maybe run onto that space after the catch. Not in that instance, as obviously, because like I said, Brian Branch played it really well. Ravens are going to take a 21-14 lead here in a moment, but this is the second down play. The first down play was the toss pass to Henry, which is, it seemed hurried. It seemed impatient or almost panicked to me to do that with a weapon like Henry and so many of the weapons the Ravens have. I'm not sure why you have to go to that concept, but here's how this is working out. Andrews is going to kind of bring his motion in and then sit up along the left hash. I wonder if Lamar wanted to really throw the ball to Hopkins here, because there's really no read at all up to the top side. You can see Lamar's focus is down here on Hopkins. Again, it's against, I'm not saying Terrion Arnold's in bad position here. He's not. But to me, part of me thinks we need to throw this football. We need to throw this football and give Hopkins a chance to catch it. He's made big plays for us so far this year. There's a lot of contact. I'm not complaining about the contact. I'm one of those guys that thinks that DBs should be able to make more contact than they actually do. As an aside, this is the first sack, I believe, for Muhammad. I hate the word coverage sack. In fact, I want to no longer use it or utter that phrase at all. I'm going to use activity sack because, there's hustle, effort, and just from the Lions' perspective for their defense, a refusal to stop playing football and allow Lamar to just run wherever he wanted to. I think it didn't really come back to hurt the Ravens, obviously, but I wonder if maybe the Ravens coaching staff isn't talking to Lamar like, hey, we got DeAndre Hopkins for those moments. It's absolutely one-on-one down there to the bottom side of our screen, the right-hand side of the offense, and let's throw the football. It's 3rd and goal. It's going to be touchdown to Andrews. Again, 2-man, so he's matched up here against Anzalone, who I've already talked about, in glowing terms from a coverage standpoint, but this is easy for the Ravens. Andrews, will win these matchups for the most part. And you can see Lamar is already pulling the pin here with Kirby Joseph eyeing Lamar and really no awareness of the route at all. The Ravens have a lot of weapons, right? Bateman, Flowers, Hopkins, like I said. And Anzalone's a really good coverage guy. I just don't think this is a great choice for them. There needed to be a little bit of a banjo, if you ask me, whereby you, Anzalone, know if he goes outside that Kirby's going to help you. Of course, that leaves other players perhaps one-on-one. It's not surprising to me that Andrews had a big day, given some of the coverages that the Lions played. It worked out in their favor, obviously. Moving on a little bit, the Lions have tied the game in the third quarter pretty quickly against the Ravens defense, no surprise. And this is, I think, an example of how impatient the Ravens were, not committed. Compare what the Ravens do on this play and others to what Detroit did on so many 2nd and 10s on Monday night. Basically, 12 personnel run the football, committed to who they are. The Ravens lacked initiative, in my opinion. They lacked the will to stay with an offense. It's 2nd and 3. I think it's after a screen to Zay Flowers for 7 yards, but I could be wrong there. The point is, the Lions would run the ball on 2nd and 10, successfully, in fact. Montgomery's 72-yard run in the third quarter comes on a 2nd and 10. The Ravens on 2nd and 3 look totally impatient. It's a really nice job, I think, here by Brian Branch. He's rolled up in a 4-3 structure. So there's the 3 inside linebackers for the Lions. Campbell, Anzalone, and Barnes. 3 really good football players who work well together. Muhammad is going to get another sack here. This is not the Cowboys who fall for this. Basically meaning Kolar stepping to the defensive end and then releasing to the flats. This is a serious, real badass football team that knows how to play a winning brand. And it doesn't surprise me that Branch stays with the tight end here, Kolar, and then the defensive end does a really nice job of holding Kolar up for a moment. And then once he sees the scheme, what's happening, it's a play fake to this side, and Andrews coming back to him, Muhammad releases it. Muhammad ended up with 2.5 sacks. I do feel like, Lamar maybe has this route here. It's a deeper out to Flowers, but I'll move this forward a little bit. He's almost kind of bending it back up the sideline, but he is looking back now. And so I wonder if maybe Lamar should throw this football down here where I have this arrow pointing. But, I don't know the concept. I don't know the play call, obviously. But to me, with Kolar here, Bateman working across, it looks to me like Flowers is running towards the sideline, and you would say Lamar needs to throw that football. Ends up being a sack on a 2nd and 3. Great play by Muhammad. I think that's sack number 2. To me, this is immature play call or design by the Ravens in that on a 2nd and 3 with the game tied at 21 all, you don't have to go for something big like that. Just get the first down. In any case, that creates this 3rd and 7. And once again, you've got man up to the top side. The purple line at the 50 is the line to gain. It's the 7-yard distance marker for the Ravens. Here's the concept. Bateman is going to run an underneath drag. It's going to be a really nice job of Branch of taking that route over. Lamar ends up throwing it to him a little bit late. It's a win for Hutchinson against the right tackle. It seems like from a Ravens perspective, offensive line-wise, these losses always come at the wrong time, meaning Hutchinson's able to force Lamar to step up, onto his front foot, and then because Bateman's running the drag, Terrion Arnold's getting depth, and he's basically releasing that route to Branch, and Branch is driving on it. So even if this ball is to be caught by Bateman running across, he's not going to get the first down. Branch is a great tackler. The Lions played decisively. They played downhill. They played tough. A tough brand on offense, obviously, and I think they did on defense as well. The Ravens' defense broke, right, a couple of times probably, and the offense, put up 30 points, and Lamar's stats were really good. But I think the Ravens are non-committal to a style, number one. Number two, almost acted like they were too cool to run the ball on 2nd and 3, to be content with just running the ball. But I recognize everybody's got their own opinions. I think I'd like to see the Ravens be a little bit more committed to getting things done with repeatable, consistent offensive concepts. Moving forward, of course, that ended up being a punt for the Ravens that pinned the Lions back inside the 10, and the Lions went down to score to take a 28-21 lead on the first play of the fourth quarter. This is now 7th possession, another 3rd and 7, and it's going to be a big win for Bateman going across. Check out Branch on this. He's basically going to jump this route by Zay Flowers underneath. It's a 2-man-ish concept once again with a 3-man rush. So you may say, well, Coach, doesn't look like a 3-man rush to me. Justice Hill's being guarded by Jack Campbell, so subtract 1 there. Here's your 3 rushers. And then this is the guy executing what most people would refer to as a spy. I'm not sure that the Lions coached it to be a spy, though. I think they coached it to replace wherever Lamar steps up. So functionally, yes, it's a spy. But in any case, still a great job by Lamar. Branch is coming forward to deal with this route. I think I said that was Flowers, but I think it actually looks like Tylan Wallace. And then, boom, Lamar saw that. Triggers to Bateman for, I believe, 20 yards. Bateman, I think, had some big wins on the night, underutilized so far throughout the whole season, and possibly last night as well. A couple of more plays to go through here. I'm really going to stop the analysis. I think you get the point. I am critical of some of the play calls for the Ravens. A couple of Lamar's decisions to maybe not throw the football. I don't know how he's coached to do it, so I'm just giving you my observations based upon some of the space that was available to him. This is after another completion to Bateman, by the way, in the fourth quarter when the Ravens are only down 7 and they seem to be playing like they're down 14. Here's what I mean. A completion to Bateman nets this first yard, and then we go QB draw. I guess I understand it. If they're playing man, then Andrews is going to pull Anzalone out here. But this sequence, I think, is really important to talk about the difference between how these two teams played, at least on Monday night. Lamar's foot is in the ground, and so he's going to step downfield. And DJ Reader makes a fantastic move to get to Lamar and make the tackle. In fact, there's going to be 3 tackles in a row on Lamar. I don't know that I've ever uttered that phrase at all. 3 tackles in a row on Lamar. 3 sacks in a row maybe, with the quality of our offensive line in recent years. But 3 tackles where he's moving around and trying to escape or scramble, that's very rare. Here's DJ Reader, who always gave us trouble when he was with the Cincinnati Bengals. And it's no different here against Voorhees. Hutchinson kind of getting upfield. You see Anzalone for a moment here. They're in zone. They being the Lions, so that route by Andrews isn't holding him at all. And just a fantastic moment for the Lions defense that, DJ Reader and then Trevor Nowaski and then finally Derek Barnes tackle Lamar all in a row. We'll cover those last 2 here right now. Like I said, the Lions are up 28-21. We're in a 2nd and 10, I believe, or 2nd and 9. on the 7th possession. And so here's the routes that are going to occur. Again, it's against two-man. Flowers is kind of running a comeback, a mirrored concept down here to Bateman on the other side. Feel like I'd want us to, if we're going to throw these footballs, if we're going to throw these routes to someone, I feel like that's where I'd like to go, even though, Terrion Arnold is not in bad position at all. This is Trevor Nowatzki and all Trevor Nowatzki. Lamar tries to juke him after looking to his left, the downside of our screen. Maybe Tyler Wallace is the guy that Lamar could hold on to the football and get it to, but Lamar, perceives pressure by the defensive ends getting upfield. I feel like sometimes Detroit was kind of getting these guys upfield to funnel Lamar into the guy who was being a spy. Risky strategy, maybe. I am quite sure some people would say that, given Lamar's ability to deal with the spy, but the activity level of so many players to converge at the point of attack. Nowatzki here, Muhammad, 2.5 sacks, Barnes, underrated guys, I thought, brought the intensity and, really didn't back down at all. This is kind of what you got in some of these situations, 2nd and 9. I think the Lions, Kelvin Sheppard and their coaching staff could perceive the lack of patience, the immature play calls at times by the Ravens, because why else do you give this look on a 2nd and 9? We could theoretically run the football. Well, John Morton probably would. But in any case, here is Nowatzki. Look at the eyes. He's totally committed to what he's supposed to do. No betrayal of the eyes at all. Compare that to some of the stuff the Ravens did. It looks like Lamar is actually thinking about throwing this football to his left side off screen. So he's not really looking at that route there, Tyler Wallace, that I talked about. But complete discipline, if you ask me. Eyes on target by Nowatzki. Lamar can't juke him. And from a Lions perspective, that's a great play. This was a lesson in physicality, if you ask me. There's no mental breakdowns or give in at all. 3rd tackle in a row on Lamar here with the ball on the right hash. Like I said, Detroit's up 7. This will be the last play that I talk about. I just wanted to break down some of the plays for you guys, both fan bases, give you an idea of some of the things I think occurred during the game and maybe things that you haven't noticed. Feel free to let me know if there's anything I've omitted so far in the comment section. So 3rd and 13, like I said, after Reeder's tackle and then Nowatzki's sack. And, of course, the Lions are dropping out into a zone delineation. I would say this is a red zone version of a cover 3. And so the spy now is Anzalone. So it's a 3-man rush mathematically, right? That all works out. 7 guys in coverage. Branch sitting down underneath. Hook to curl, flat. And then maybe these guys are in, sorry about that. Maybe these guys are actually in a quarter, half delineation in terms of the DBs. But if there's not a corner covering the flats, I wouldn't really call it a true cover 6. But just smart, man. Risk averse maybe for the Lions, but they get this done by a great effort from Derek Barnes, who's not even really supposed to be there. Barnes is in coverage, in zone, and he sees it, comes downhill right now, goes to get Lamar Jackson. I would really love to see these teams play again next week because so many guys had an impact for Detroit. And I think it stands to reason that as a Ravens fan, we should be frustrated. Where were, I don't want to say role players, where were the second-tier players for the Ravens in terms of making plays, right? The Nowatzkis, the Derek Barnes, the Muhammads, etc. Those guys really played like their hair was on fire. They showed pressure early, they being the Lions. This is Hutchinson off the right side. Watch the activity level, the energy. And I know that, he's apparently some rumor that he had a knee injury, either going into the game or coming out of it. But he ends up on the ground here. And, I'm not saying that he makes the tackle. It's Barnes who makes the tackle. But the activity level of the Lions, to me, far exceeded what the Ravens were able to put out on Monday night. This was a beatdown in many ways physically. I know that the score ended up being 38-30. That sequence of plays, to me, at that point in the game when it's only 7-point differential, really kind of speaks to how Detroit was able to play uphill and downhill. It didn't matter to them whether they were winning or losing. But the moment the Ravens got down, in this case down by 7, I feel like you could see the panic. You could see the rush nature, the play call choices that Monken made on this drive to get a field goal and cut the lead to 28-24. Looked like we were down 10 to 14 points. You're more than welcome to let me know in the comment section if you disagree, if you didn't see that kind of dynamic. I did, and it's something that I noted in my my reaction video on Monday night. In any case, if you guys enjoyed the film study video that I provided for you here, whether you're a Ravens fan or Lions fan, please let me know in the comment section, number one. Number two, if you don't know, likes and comments really drive the engagement. And if you enjoy my work and you'd like to see more of it, either Tuesday night here or into Wednesday morning, then please consider liking and commenting to kind of help these videos gain more exposure and influence me positively to produce more content. Finally, if you think other Ravens or Lions fans in general would enjoy this film study look at the Lions defense and how they really kind of broke down the Ravens, albeit more slowly than their offense did, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.